Now, there is nothing I crave more this time of year than a cozy combo of soup and a sandwich. Am I right? Like, it's the perfect thing to be eating. So today, we are gonna make my butternut squash and apple soup. It's like fall in a bowl. It's a total dream. And then I'm gonna make a totally delicious, very seasonal grilled cheese sandwich to go with it. I know. I feel like this is the crowd. This is a soup sandwich crowd. I'm into this. All right. So we're gonna get started on that soup. Now, I feel like if you've not made soup before, oftentimes you think it's gonna be a real production. It's gonna take forever. It's bubbling away on the stove for like years, it feels like. But this is a super quick and delicious soup. So I've got my pan here over about medium-high heat. I want it hot because I want to build that golden brown flavor really, really quickly, because that's gonna give depth to this soup in a flash, which is a dream. So into there, I'm gonna add in about a tablespoon of olive oil. Now, if you wanted to, you could go in with butter. I wouldn't be mad at that, I'm not gonna lie. Now I'm regretting not doing butter because we got a butter crowd, clearly. Now into there, that's smoking hot. I'm gonna toss in an onion. So I've got one yellow onion here that I've just diced up. You don't have to be too precious about the size of the onion. This is just like a nice kind of medium dice. If you do it finer, feel free, it'll cook quicker. Bigger, also totally fine. That sizzle is perfect. That's gonna give us nice color quickly. Now I'm going in with a little bit of salt. Anytime I'm cooking any sort of vegetable, as soon as it hits the heat, add in that salt. Now that salt isn't necessarily to give it flavor, it's more to help draw out the moisture, which is gonna help it cook down quicker. The pepper, she's just for flavor because she's delish. Now, give that a little bit of a stir. Speaking of flavor, I'm gonna add something into those onions that's gonna immediately kind of give it that fall vibe. So I've got some sage here. I love sage. It's delicious. It's nice to touch because it feels kind of like a lamb's ear. You know, it's nice and soft and beautiful. I'm gonna pick those leaves off of this sage. Now, I just want the leaves. I don't want the stems because they're a little bit woody. But just grab as many of those leaves off and reserve them because we're gonna use those a little bit later on in the recipe. But do not throw out this stem. This stem is full of flavor, and we're actually gonna toss it into the pot with the onions. That's gonna act almost like tea leaves and give a little bit of like sagey flavor right on into here as soon as it hits that heat. All right, now those onions just need to cook down for a few minutes just until they're golden brown. These are already looking pretty tasty. So let's go over here and chat our squash. Now, if you wanted to, you could easily do this with any sort of pumpkin or squash. To be honest, acorn squash to me is perfect for just cutting in half and roasting because nobody wants to peel that. With all those little ridges, that's wild. I don't want to deal with that. So we're using butternut squash today. So this is a butternut. It's the primo squash, in my opinion. It's creamy. It's really kind of almost juicy. It's not particularly dry. But I have a thing with squash. I always buy it pre-prepped. I'm not gonna lie. It's the one vegetable that I get in that like little pack in the like fridge section in the produce area. First off, it's a pain in the butt to break down. Second, does anyone here know what I mean when I say I get squash hands? Yeah. Okay, we've got a couple. So there's this weird thing. I'm not allergic to squash. I can eat it, but when I touch it, it makes my hands feel dry and itchy and a little papery. It's very strange. So I leave the squash peeling to the experts who do not get squash hands, and I just use that perfect squash. So I've got one broken down here, and I've also got an apple. Now I've got a green apple cut up there. I need another half of an apple. That apple is gonna give beautiful flavor, nice sweetness into here. So I'm just gonna get rid of that peel. Give that oh, this is a really nice peeler. My friend Susie backstage told me that this is the best peeler she's used, and she was not lying. Oh, this is a delight. I know this is not engaging television, but I'm having a good time right now. All right, now I'm just gonna dice up that other half of that apple. You want about 1.5 green apples. Now, if you wanted to, you could easily do this with a Macintosh. It would be a little bit sweeter. I like that tartness because the butternut squash is already nice and sweet. Now, I'm also gonna dice up or slice up actually, I'll dice up all of this sage, but I need about 2 to 3 teaspoons of sliced sage right into that pot. So just give your knife a little run through that sage. Looking beautiful, it smells amazing. I can tell I'm getting color on those onions, and to be honest, if they get a little overcolored, it's totally gonna be delish. Which they are, but it's gonna be delish. That little bit of brown flavor is gonna kind of mellow out throughout the soup and be a dream. Now, I've also got 3 cloves of garlic here. Now, typically, you know me, I'm a rasper when it comes to garlic, but I'm in a rush today, so we're gonna do a smash and chop. So grab your garlic clove, knife on the side, carefully smack it down, gives a little bit of a break. That does half of the work for me, a little bit of apple flu, that's okay. all right? And then I'm just gonna run my knife through this. Since this is a smooth soup and I'm gonna puree it, I don't have to be precious about any of these cuts. Just run your knife through. Looking beautiful. Now I'm gonna add that garlic right on into that pot. That's gonna smell good. Do you smell the sage kind of coming through? That little bit of sage, because of that stem, is totally beautiful. Now I'm gonna go in with I'd say about 2 teaspoons of that thinly sliced sage. And then I'm also going in with that squash and apple. So I've got my squash all peeled and ready to go. Add that on in. That apple goes in as well. You don't necessarily need the apple, but it does give you the most beautiful kind of tart, sweet flavor. Really makes this taste like fall. Now give that a good stir, and just like with the onions, I do want to season this right as soon as that hits the heat, because that's going to, again, draw out some moisture, help this get a little bit of color, and just season that veg. Now I want to cook this down for anywhere from about a minute or 2, just until that veg and apple starts to pick up some of that color from the bottom of the pan. At this point, once that's done, I want to add in a little more flavor. So for me, the best thing with a little bit of squash, maybe some apple in a soup, is nutmeg. And I just so happen to have my pocket nutmeg on my hand, so we're good to go. So I'm just gonna add in just a touch. Now, if you don't have whole nutmeg at home, first off, what are you doing? You gotta go buy it. This stuff is so good. It tastes almost lemony. It's really, really delicious. But if you can't find it, if you only have the ground stuff at home, feel free to just use that. I'm gonna give that a little bit of a stir. And now I'm gonna add in my broth. So for me, I am going in with vegetable broth. You could do chicken broth if that's good for you, but vegetable broth, it's a vegetable soup, we're good to go. So I'm just gonna add that on into the pot. And immediately you hear all of that golden brown color kind of like coming up off the bottom of the pan. You add in liquid to a pot where there's all that golden brown cooked on the bottom, and it just kind of shakes it loose into that soup, and it's gonna be beautiful. So you wanna bring that up to a boil, again, over medium-high heat still, then turn it down to medium and let it simmer for about 20 minutes, just until that squash and that apple is perfectly tender. Now I look like a DJ, and I'm gonna do that. That was cool. And then, oh yeah, we get something that looks like this. It's cooked down. You can see the squash and the apple is nice and tender. This is the only hard part of this recipe, is you have to hunt for this little guy, that little sage sprig. She's done. We're done with her. She's given us her flavor. Thank you for your service. Get out of here. Okay. Now, I have got an immersion blender. So if you don't have an immersion blender at home, you could do this in a traditional stand blender. Just make sure you remove that little cap on the top. Put a towel on top so it doesn't fly over your ceiling, because nobody wants soup on their ceiling. But blitz it up in batches. I'm going in with the immersion blender though, so wish me luck. All right. And you just want to puree this until it is nice and smooth. I'm gonna actually hold this pot on a little bit of an angle. And you just want to run that through until everything is nice and pureed. If you want it to be chunky, feel free to leave it a little bit chunky. But again, the more you cook this soup down, see that beautiful velvety texture? Like, that looks absolutely out of control. And truly, other than that 20-minute simmering, that's how long that soup takes to make. Now, I'm gonna finish mine off with a little bit of whipping cream, because I feel like it. If you wanted, though, you could swap this out with coconut milk. That would be really great and make this a full kind of vegan situation. But about a quarter to a half a cup of whipping cream goes in. Season that up with a little bit more salt, maybe a bit more pepper, and then, of course, a little bit more of that nutmeg. Then you give that cream a stir through. Let's give it a taste. Okay. Oh. Isn't that nice? Honestly, this is my dream right here. All right, I'm gonna give this soup a taste, see how we're doing. Might adjust the seasonings a bit. You know what wouldn't be wrong in here? I'm not gonna add it today, but if you wanna do a little sneaky maple syrup in there, that wouldn't be bad either. Super tasty, really delish, but the perfect thing to have with a delicious soup is a grilled cheese sandwich, in my professional opinion. Yes. So we are gonna make a little bit of a spin, like a seasonal spin on this grilled cheese sandwich. So as opposed to just doing classic bread, cheese, bread, you're good, we're gonna add some flavors, kind of mimicking what's going on in that soup. So the first thing obviously we need is our bread. I'm going with sourdough here, just a nice kind of whole grain sourdough. Beautiful. Now I feel like this audience is gonna appreciate it. Doesn't that look like a bunny? Every time sourdough. And this one even has like a little tail. Like, we got it. So that's how my brain works. Welcome. But we're gonna spread a good amount of butter on there. So this is where the butter's coming in. So I typically, if I'm making a grilled cheese sandwich, I do about a tablespoon of butter per sandwich, which sounds like a lot, but it's how you get that golden brown color. You really wanna spread to the edges, and it's gonna be beautiful. Now, my brother is someone, and honestly, I'm not mad about it. If you did not remember to take that butter out of the fridge, or you don't have any that's room temp, that mayonnaise trick honestly isn't bad. And that's what, does everybody know the mayonnaise trick? Yes, mayonnaise likes to go really beautiful and golden brown, just like butter does. It's got a good amount of protein in it, it's got oil in it, a little extra flavor, obviously, than butter, but really, really nice, easy hack if you forgot to take your butter out, but if you didn't, use the butter because it's amazing. We love it. All right, so now I'm gonna build that sandwich. As opposed to using classic yellow or orange cheddar cheese, I'm going in with a smoked cheddar cheese. And to really knock it up a notch, we are gonna go in with an Applewood smoked cheddar cheese. Yeah. So this is honestly one of my all-time faves. It's really, really nice. It's got a good flavor on it. Usually it kind of has a little bit of paprika on the outside. I like to grate my cheese for my grilled cheese sandwiches. I find it gives you a more kind of cheesy pulliness. Absolutely beautiful. So I'm gonna scatter a good amount on to here. Really pile it on there, you know. Listen, we're making a grilled cheese, you know? So you gotta add that cheese. And then to give it a little bit more of that flavor from the soup, I'm just gonna thinly slice up some of the other half of this apple. Did I lose anyone with an apple and the grilled cheese? Okay, I was a little worried, but honestly, it's so nice, that thin slice. Cut it as thinly as you can, just to give that little bit of a crisp, that little bit of sour, that little bit of sweetness. It's almost like a little charcuterie board in your grilled cheese. Beautiful, beautiful. So just lay those right on top. Obviously, we need what I'm gonna call the glue of this sandwich, which is more cheese. So I'm gonna pop some more on just for fun. You know. Perfect. Now, if you couldn't find Applewood smoked, you could use maple smoked, you could use any sort of smoked cheese, would be beautiful. Pop that top on, and then we are going to go on over into our pan. Now, my pan, I've got it over medium heat, and I'm just gonna add that baby right on in. That little bit of sizzle, if any of that cheese spills out the side, honestly, that's just gonna be a little crispy snack for you. Now, anytime I am making a grilled cheese, I like to pop a lid on when I'm cooking that first side. Now, you can use a lid, it doesn't have to be overly big. You just wanna trap a bit of that steam and just press it down. That's gonna trap that steam and help that cheese kind of melt a little bit better. Now, once I flip it over, don't put a lid on because that's gonna get rid of all that crispy, delicious golden brownness that we're working on now. I have got a swap, that's what we call it in the biz, in the oven of a perfectly cooked, very excited, whole grilled cheese sandwich. Oh my gosh. Look at this little number. She's golden brown. I'm gonna grab it out. I'm going in with my fingers. Again, I'm a profesh, so feel free to use a flipper if you need to, but I'm going like that. I'm gonna cut this baby in half. Oh my gosh, I'm thrilled about this. Get that apple off of there. Okay, here we go. That cheesy, delicious grilled cheese. We got that cheese in there. I'm very excited. Just pop him onto a plate. And then for that soup, a soup and a sandwich combo. So I'm gonna head on over here. Get a good little ladle of this beautiful, creamy soup. Pop that into a bowl. This is my mom's one of her favorite meals. Honestly, you give her soup and she's a happy camper. Then to top this off, just to really send this home, I'm not done here, you know me, I'm Mary Berg. I'm gonna add more stuff on here. So I've got that beautiful soup, but for some added creaminess, I'm going in with a little dollop of sour cream. Again, a little bit of nice kind of thick, rich creaminess right on top. A little bit of that sage that we've got, maybe just one of those leaves, and you, my friends, have got a delicious, delicious meal. All right, I can't resist a grilled cheese and a dunk, so here we go. A little dunkaroo. Okay, here we go, let's give it a go. Oh yeah, that hits the spot. That is amazing. Get your sweaters on, get your soup and sandwich combo, and you'll be a happy camper. Hey, Mary here. What did you think? Drop your comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more of the good stuff.